You think you have to tolerate toxic people forever. Most people believe their only options are confrontation or suffering in silence until one quietly dismantles their confidence, relationships, or career without ever raising their voice. Studies show toxic people often appear helpful, caring, even protective. But behind that mask is a psychological vampire feeding off your emotional reactions while slowly destroying your mental health. There's a technique so powerful that domestic violence counselors, FBI, behavioral analysts, and trauma therapists all use the same counterintuitive method. It makes toxic people voluntarily lose interest in you and move on to easier targets without them even realizing what's happening. In this video, I'll show you the complete Gray Rock Protocol, 7 techniques that make you psychologically invisible to manipulators. Miss these and you risk feeding their addiction to your emotions for years. But master them, and you'll watch toxic people complain you've become boring while they desperately seek more entertaining victims elsewhere. Let's start with the most counterintuitive technique, something that feels wrong at first but is actually your most powerful weapon against psychological predators. Technique 1. Emotional flatline. The first technique is showing zero emotional reaction to their provocations, compliments, threats, or drama. Whether they're screaming at you or praising you, your face shows the same expression you'd have while watching paint dry. Listen to how you normally respond to their manipulation. When they insult you, you get defensive. When they compliment you, you light up with gratitude. When they create drama, you get pulled into their emotional chaos. Every reaction is psychological food that keeps them coming back for more. Here's what's actually happening. Toxic people are emotional vampires who feed on your reactions like addicts feed on drugs. Your anger, your hurt, your confusion, even your joy. It's all supply to them. When you show no emotional response, you're cutting off their psychological drug supply. But here's the trap most people fall into. They think emotional flatline means being rude or obviously cold. Wrong. You respond with neutral phrases like, okay, I see, or that's interesting. Your tone stays flat, your face stays blank, but you're not being openly hostile, you're being aggressively boring. But emotional flatline is just the foundation. Technique 2 controls their access to ammunition. Technique 2, information starvation. You share absolutely minimal information about your life, plans, feelings, relationships, or activities. You become a closed book they can't read or exploit. You probably overshare without realizing it. I'm stressed about the presentation tomorrow. I'm excited about my date this weekend. I'm worried about my mom's health. Every detail you share becomes potential leverage for future attacks. Here's what makes this truly sinister. They don't just use your information to hurt you directly. They use it to create elaborate manipulation scenarios. They know you're stressed about work, so they create additional workplace drama. They know you're excited about dating, so they plant seeds of doubt about your romantic judgment. The solution is information starvation. When they ask personal questions, you respond with, nothing much, same as usual, or everything's fine. Give them nothing to work with. Your life becomes a mystery they can't solve or exploit. Information starvation leads directly to Technique 3. Technique 3, boring consistency. You become completely predictable and uninteresting. Same responses, same energy level, same topics, no surprises or emotional variety whatsoever. Toxic people are stimulation seekers who get bored easily. They thrive on chaos, drama, and emotional intensity. When you become the human equivalent of beige wallpaper, present but completely forgettable, they start looking elsewhere for entertainment. But here's what most people don't understand about boring consistency. It's not about becoming a robot. It's about becoming strategically uninteresting to predators while maintaining your authentic self with safe people. You're controlling who gets access to your personality. I watched someone use this technique with their toxic mother-in-law. Instead of engaging with provocative comments about their parenting or career choices, they responded to everything with the same mild interest they'd show for weather updates. Within 3 months, the mother-in-law stopped targeting them and moved on to other family members who still provided emotional reactions. Boring consistency creates the perfect setup for Technique 4. Technique 4, guilt immunity. You become completely immune to guilt trips, emotional manipulation, and attempts to make you feel responsible for their problems or emotions. Guilt is their primary control mechanism. You're being selfish. You don't care about family. I'm disappointed in you. After everything I've done for you. These phrases used to send you scrambling to fix their feelings and prove your worth. Here's the psychological trap they've been using against you. They trained you to see their emotional states as your responsibility. When they're upset, you feel obligated to make them feel better. When they are disappointed, you feel compelled to earn their approval. The immunity response is simple but powerful. When they try to guilt you, respond with, that sounds difficult for you. You're acknowledging their stated emotion without taking responsibility for fixing it. You're not being mean. You're being appropriately detached from problems that aren't yours to solve. But guilt immunity is just preparation for Technique 5. Technique 5, minimal engagement. You keep all interactions as brief as possible. Answer only what's necessary. Don't elaborate. don't ask follow-up questions, and end conversations quickly. Extended interactions give them more opportunities to find emotional buttons to push or information to exploit. Every extra minute you spend engaging with them is another chance for them to hook you back into their drama or manipulation. Use what boundary experts call the bean dip method. Acknowledge briefly and redirect, I need to get going. That's interesting. I have to run. I see. Talk to you later. You're not ignoring them completely, but you're not providing the extended engagement they crave. Minimal engagement naturally leads to Technique 6. Technique 6, escalation resistance. When they try to provoke bigger reactions by increasing drama, threats, or manipulation intensity, you maintain exactly the same boring response level. Here's what's going to happen when you start Grey Rock. They'll initially escalate to test your resolve. If subtle manipulation isn't working, they'll try more dramatic tactics. They might become more aggressive, more pathetic, or more charming. This is called an extinction burst, their final desperate attempt to regain control. Whether they whisper or scream, your response stays identical. A calm, brief, uninterested. Don't match their energy level. Don't get pulled into their escalation. Your consistency will eventually exhaust their efforts because they're not getting the psychological payoff they're seeking. I watched someone maintain perfect Grey Rock while their toxic ex-husband screamed about custody arrangements, then tried love bombing, then attempted guilt trips, then threatened legal action. Through every escalation, they responded with the same flat tone. I understand you're upset. We can discuss this through our lawyers. Within 6 months, he stopped the dramatic outbursts because they weren't producing results. We've covered 6 techniques, but Technique 7 is crucial for long-term protection. Technique 7, strategic documentation. You secretly document all interactions while maintaining your boring exterior. Dates, times, what was said, witnesses present. Documentation serves 2 purposes. First, it protects you legally if their behavior escalates to harassment, threats, or abuse. Second, it protects you psychologically by providing proof that their behavior patterns are real, not imagined. Keep a private log they can't access. Note patterns of escalation, threats, or manipulation attempts. Don't let them know you're documenting. This isn't about building a case necessarily, it's about protecting yourself if situations escalate and maintaining your grip on reality when they try to distort it. Now that you understand these 7 techniques, here's your implementation strategy. This isn't something you master overnight. Week 1, practice emotional flatline and minimal responses. Week 2, add information restriction and boring consistency. Week 3, build guilt immunity and escalation resistance. Week 4, implement the full protocol with documentation. But here's what's going to happen during this process. They're going to hate your transformation. They'll complain that you're not the same person, that you've become cold or distant. They might even recruit other people to tell you that you're being unfair or mean. Some people in your life are going to be confused when you stop being their emotional supply source. They're used to you absorbing their drama, providing free therapy, and reacting to their manipulation as normal behavior. When you suddenly start acting like someone who values their own mental health, they're going to push back hard. Good. That means you're finally developing psychological self-respect. The people who truly care about you will respect your new boundaries. They'll appreciate that you're no longer a pushover they can exploit for emotional entertainment. But the people who only valued you for the emotional reactions you provided, they're going to hate your Grey Rock transformation. They'll say you've become boring, that you don't care anymore, that you're being selfish. They're right about one thing. You're not the same person. You're no longer their emotional support animal or manipulation target. Here's the most important insight about Grey Rock. It's not about becoming emotionally dead or shutting down completely. It's about strategic emotional protection when dealing with people who use your emotions against you. You're not changing who you are fundamentally. You're controlling who gets access to your authentic self. With safe people, friends who respect boundaries, family members who treat you well, colleagues who collaborate fairly, you can be your full, emotional, authentic self. Grey Rock is specifically for toxic people who have proven they can't handle access to your genuine emotions without weaponizing them. The technique works because toxic people require emotional engagement to feel satisfied. They need you to react, to care, to be affected by their behavior. When you provide neither positive nor negative emotional responses, you become an unsatisfying target they'll eventually abandon for more reactive victims. But here's the warning you need to understand clearly. If someone becomes physically threatening or violent, abandon Grey Rock immediately and prioritize your physical safety. This technique works for psychological manipulation, not physical danger. Contact authorities if anyone threatens your physical well-being. The most reliable outcome of consistent Grey Rock is that toxic people will eventually complain you're no fun anymore and start seeking more entertaining targets. That complaint is actually your success metric. When they stop trying to manipulate you because you've become too boring to bother with, you've achieved the goal. Like, you're not trying to change them or teach them lessons. You're not trying to get revenge or make them understand how they've hurt you. You're simply making yourself an unprofitable target for their psychological games. Sometimes the most powerful response to manipulation isn't confrontation, it's strategic indifference. If this video gave you the tools to finally protect yourself from toxic people you can't escape, hit subscribe and comment "Gray Rock" if you're ready to try this technique. Your mental energy is a valuable resource. Stop feeding the psychological vampires in your life and start protecting it accordingly.